I've got 8 questions here. You get 3 rolls on the tower, and whatever you roll, that is where we start at least.
Okay, all right.
It's so weird seeing someone else roll.
This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
This might go
now
missing.
Someone can actually appreciate it too. No one's really looked at the dice super close.
This is so cool. Okay, so how do I not mess this up?
It should just go in there and then fall out into the grass. And it did. You have to read it though. I can't see it.
Okay, what am I reading? 3?
Yeah, that looks like a 3. Can you give us 1 audition high and 1 audition low and tell us what you learned from that low?
Oh boy. Am I really about to say this story? I've kept this story in a box for so long in the very back of my mind. Yeah, okay, why not? I was 5 years old and I auditioned for, it's a Christmas movie and it ended up doing very well. I'm not gonna say what it was, but I was so excited about it and so nervous at the audition. That I was like, really tense or whatever. And then all the other kids started to play in the waiting room. And I was like, oh, I want to play. That looks fun. So I started playing. And I was like, we were playing with, I think somebody had brought Barbies. We were like sitting there playing with Barbies in the waiting room of the audition. And then I get called in. And I am, when I get nervous, I have to go pee. And I didn't go pee before the audition because I was busy playing with Barbies. And so I went into the audition room. And I got so nervous when they were like, okay, go ahead and start. And I literally peed just a little bit, but enough that I was like, and just ran out of the room. And I ran out to my mom, and I was like, Mommy. And she was like, what? What's wrong? So anyway, they let me go back in after taking my bathroom break. But yeah, that was definitely a low, and the lesson was, go pee before the audition.
Yeah,
Don't get distracted with Barbies. Can't believe I just said that. Oh my God.
You were 5. You were 5.
I was 5.
That is a very reasonable thing to have happen.
I'm less nervous this time. Is it a 3 again?
We need to do it again.
Okay, great.
3 is my lucky number though, so that's good vibes.
Is it?
Good
Okay.
vibes.
Mine's 5, but this one's 2.
5 or 2?
Well, 5's my lucky number. This is 2.
What is something that could be seemingly silly to someone else out there? Like a little thing in your life that makes you happy on a regular basis, even though it might not be something everybody else out there like values to the nth degree.
Ooh, I've gotten really into, like, what's even the word? Like spin classes, like cycling. And I've always been like, I always struggled a lot with working out and the concept of exercise for the sake of, for the sake, because what it was always to me internally was about image, and it was about vanity, and it was about not even vanity for like in a negative sense, but in a sense of like just feeling like I needed to do something in order to be liked, in order to fit in order to, I would talk to people and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is my workout routine, and I wouldn't have one, and it would make me feel weird about it, but at the same time, like the idea of working out felt like this thing that didn't identify with me. And this is a very long-winded way of saying that, like, Cobra Kai and doing karate, I fell so in love with the sport that it completely changed my mind about it. And now I see working out as this thing that, like, I am nourishing this literal physical muscles, but this internal muscle that tells me, these are the things that I can take from what I'm doing and adapt them to karate, and that, and then therefore on a bigger scale, what that means for my career or what that means for me as an individual and lessons that I'm taking away from things. And so these cycling classes, like, sometimes it feels so cheesy because it's just, they're like, like, whatever your biggest, hurdle is in life right now, put it right in front of the bike and you just ride right over it, and you just ride up that hill. And I used to be with the person who would just giggle at that, but now I'm in it, and I really do. I close my eyes and I'm like, that audition I did that I really wanted and it went terribly, I'm putting that right in front of this bike and I'm riding over it. And like, it seems silly, but like it's become such a point of center for me, I guess. This is fun now.
1. Would you rather have to fake sneeze or fake vomit in a scene?
Okay. I don't know if this is a common answer, but fake vomit. First of all, it's fun. It's funny, in my opinion. I think it's funny in general. Puke doesn't bother me. Like, there are certain bodily things that, like, I can't even joke about it because it just, the ick so bad. But puke doesn't bother me because my body, like, that is the number one thing that my body will do in response to anything. I'm stressed out, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm not hungry, I am, you know, I'm sad, I'm, whatever it is, I don't know why, but I just throw up. It's like the weirdest thing that I can't, and I'm like, I found ways around it. Like, I found things that, like, okay, like, as soon as I start to feel it, I'm like, oh, the upper lip sweat, and the back of my neck is warm, okay, we need to, and I'm like planning, but I've gotten so immune to it that, like, again, I find it funny. It's like, how loud can I be when I fake vomit in this scene? But apparently I actually found out that I'm a very quiet puker. I can throw up and nobody knows that I'm doing it. Like,
so you know, one of the other questions on this list is IMDb trivia, because I look at everyone.
Oh no!
You have like nothing on your list, but I feel like quiet puker is something that would be very appropriate for that particular page.
I had this whole conversation with somebody because one time I was in the back of an Uber and I was super nauseous, and I was like, I was on the way to my like second day of work on Cobra Kai ever, and I was super nauseous, and we were filming really far away from where I was living, and so I was in the car for like 45 minutes. And I had a Ziploc baggie with me.
Oh no!
Anyway, nobody knew. So that's the point. That's the moral of the story.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night, a very special edition because this is officially our second in-person Ladies Night in a very, very long time, and it's with a very special person. Mary Mauser of Cobra Kai! Cobra Kai Season 5. How are we at Season 5 already?
That it's seriously, I keep saying it feels like a high school time capsule where I kind of get to look at it now and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, and then I go back and watch like Season 1 stuff, I'm like, oh, it's actually been like 5 years. That's wild.
When you first decided that you wanted to be an actor and make this your career, what did the idea of making it look like? Was there any other like actor or a type of role that if you got to do that thing, you would think like, I have made it in Hollywood?
I don't know that. Here's the thing is like especially at that age and then kind of throughout, I didn't think far ahead about it. I didn't think about, like, what does this look like in 10, 20, 30 years? I was like, this is so cool and fun, and, like, in the mentality of, like, this is what I love to do, and I want to keep doing it. And so by that point, like, now, in this place that I'm at in my life, like, these little things are popping up that I'm not, and they're not little, but they're huge, and I'm so excited about it, but it just feels surreal, because I didn't think far enough ahead to be like, what would it be like to see my face on a giant billboard on Sunset Boulevard? What would it be like to, you know, to hang out with Ralph Macchio and his kids and his wife who are lovely and, you know, watch an episode of an ABC show? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what would it be like to have these, like, crazy cool experiences? Or, like, you know, to get stopped on the street and have somebody be like, hey, I dressed up as you for Halloween. Like, that's bizarre. That's so cool. And I didn't think far enough ahead to really wonder, but now I feel like I'm thinking about it in the sense of, like, what would it be to make it? Like, I don't know, like, some of my favorite band members, like, followed me on Instagram and I lost it. I just about, like, I really sobbed.
What band?
Oh, no, I'm going to fully out myself now.
I'm curious now.
Because I don't want them to think I'm crazy, but anyway, not that they are ever going to see this or think that I'm crazy, but anyway, like, band members from, like, I Love Sleeping with Sirens and Pierce the Veil and Motionless in White and, like, some of those band members, and it's just cool because it's, like, it's this thing of like, okay, like, yeah, I forget that I'm a grown-up, I think is what it comes down to. Like, I've been doing this for so long and been the kid on set that, like, now being the grown-up, it's cool, it's awesome, and that I can have conversations with people in a different way of, like, this is what, you know, this art means to me and this is what art means to you, and we can kind of agree on this in this middle ground of what art is, and that's I don't know, a cool new aspect to it.
Oh, I love
but I don't
that
know,
so much.
maybe like I think maybe, like, going somewhere and having, like, an actual Halloween costume, like, at Spirit Halloween, because that's, like, I'm a Halloween nerd. So, like, the idea of, like, actually picking something up off of a rack and it being designed after a character I was in, maybe that.
I always find it really interesting, the journey or the evolution from being like, you know, a child actor where maybe you are being told what to do more and then becoming an adult on set where all of a sudden you realize, like, my creative input is being heard in a different way. So at what point in Cobra Kai did you sense that happening?
It's a very definitive moment. It was the finale of season 1. We had, you know, the scene in which Miguel went to go hit Robbie at the beach party and accidentally knocks me out. Not literally, I joke, I say that jokingly, but no, but actually, I mean, I, you know, get hit to the floor and hit the ground and stand up and you are an asshole and my dad was right and all that, and, like, that argument, for me, like, walking away from that, I remember being like, this feels huge, like, this was so big for me as thinking about what 15-year-old me would have taken away from that scene and from that message, and I loved how she did. She walked away. She said, you know what? No, I don't like what you're doing here. I don't like this person you're becoming. And even if it was a hot-headed, heat of the moment, it's a lot, emotionally charged, doing that was important to me. But when we, got to the end of the season, obviously, everybody wanted the show to come back and we were super excited about it, but they didn't know, what would be coming next, and they were setting up kind of where those characters would go. And for one, I mean, I begged them all season long, can Sam do karate? And they were like, just hold off, just wait. And they gave me that moment at the end of season 1. And I don't know how much of that was already pre-decided to set up for season 2 and how much of that was, a conversation of knowing that I was super excited about the idea of karate. But I know definitively that the scene at the tournament where Sam and Miguel have a little moment when she says, when he says, just watch what I do to your boyfriend out there or whatever, like watch what I do to Robbie. That was originally a very different scene where Sam kind of came up in tears and was and talked to Miguel and was like, I forgive you. And I had a big issue with that, and I see what they were doing with it, and it could have been a really cool version of it, but I just had this issue with the idea of the forgiveness happening that quickly without the conversation beforehand. I was like, I feel like we should see that conversation rather than having it be like an internal conversation for her. And the guys were like, yeah, well, come to us with what you think. So Shoro and I went over and sat down on the benches at the tournament with a pencil and the pages of the script and went through, and we were like, well, what's a version of this that we could say? What feels like, we could get this message across? And we went back to them with it, and obviously they took it and made it beautiful because that's what they do. But we got to have a moment where and that conversation started about 2 weeks before, and then it finished as we were about to shoot that scene at the tournament. And they were like, are you happy with this? Yeah, absolutely. And I got to have that moment of having that conversation with what felt to me like making him own it a little more and making and getting to see that conversation for Samantha, so that later when it, when they did kind of reconcile and come back together, that it made more sense. And I loved that because they were like, yeah, we're not teenage girls, sure. How would you deal with this as a teenage girl? And that was the cool thing, was getting to collaborate that way and be like, I like this version of Samantha. And they were like, we like that version of Samantha, let's do it.
Spoiler warning for everybody out there who has not watched all of season 5 of Cobra Kai. This is it. We are going to talk spoilers. You push pause, and then you go watch the show, and then you come right back and you press play. It's that easy. All right. So the moment that kind of inspired that question for me was, I believe it's the end of episode 8, beginning of episode 9, when Tory finally comes clean to Sam. And that is an exact example of one of those moments where I'm like, oh, this is great. They could move on now and be friends. But Sam snaps at her. Uh-huh. Do you think that she would have had that same reaction had she not seen Miguel kiss another girl right before Tory came up to her?
I mean, I think it's human nature to have feelings like that. And again, yes, she's a teenage girl, like you said, that's the reality of the situation. I don't think I would have had the zoom out lens ability to see how all of these actions play together. And also, I mean, I totally can say there's better ways to handle so many of the situations that Sam handles, that anybody handles. We all learn that. That's human nature. We make mistakes, we learn from them. That's how you get better. Sometimes you are able to see somebody else make a mistake and learn from it, and hopefully not to make that mistake yourself. But a lot of times, at least for me, it's trial and error. And so also the fact that Tory knew that information and kept it to herself, I mean, it's definitely the heat of the moment of seeing Miguel with another girl right there in that second. But it's also, coming out of having just had this fight at this dojo, Tory also bailed on it. And there's frustration there. She had all this pent up anger and this, Sam spent so much time gearing up for this showdown with her and being like, I'm going to get to vindicate myself. I get to fix all these issues that I've seen falling apart in my family that Sam's carried around this guilt with, I let my family down. My family's falling apart. They're fighting. All these big things are happening because I failed at that tournament. And I think all of that weight, coming into this, okay, standing out there and training with Daniel and with Chosen and having that big moment, these are all these things that have huge, big pent up energy. And it's like when you gear yourself up for a big argument with somebody and then you go to talk to them and they're like, yeah, I understand your point. You're like, well, yeah, well, good, but also I gotta find something else to be mad about, because I'm human and I have all this anger inside of me. So yeah, it's like seeing Miguel struck the match, but the flame was already, waiting to burn for Sam all day, and then realizing that Tory knew this and didn't do anything about it. Again, not defending Sam's actions, but for me in that moment, what all of that came up for really comes down to so much more than being angry about a boy. For me, it comes down that's a broken heart and the moment that you realize you let somebody get away and like the moment that it's too little too late, like that pain on top of all of the other frustration and anger, and even having won that fight, what that fight was supposed to mean versus what it ended up meaning for Sam, still very exciting and wonderful, but it was supposed to be so much more, what's the word, I'm like, satisfying, you know? And so for me, it felt like, yeah, I could just explode into karate, especially if you have those kinds of skills and somebody pisses you off, like, that's the thing that, like, I even do it jokingly all the time, where, like, I'm constantly in between takes, like, punching and kicking my co-stars, and they're great. They know how to defend themselves, okay, first of all. They're super talented. But, you know, there's plenty of those moments where it's, like, once you have that in you, it's, like, that is, like, your go-to response, and especially with Tory, like, you know, the scars are still there. Is my thing.
The show is so good. It's like surface level entertainment and fun, but it's got those complex emotional beats and arcs, and that's what makes it stick with you and makes it really mean something. And it makes this show be able to like have a positive influence on some younger folks and older folks for that matter.
Yeah. I'm learning from Sam all the time.
I'm learning from like everyone in the show all the time. In the next scene that Sam has with Tory, this might be like me overthinking things and it might be too specific, but were there any conversations in terms of like the blocking? Because it really caught my eye that Sam is always standing there as they're having that conversation and not necessarily sharing the couch with her.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We were very intentional with every piece of that was so thought out by, you know, our incredible writers, our directors. Everybody was so involved in kind of these conversations, because to me especially, and I think to everybody there, this was such a big moment. It was kind of like the you know, a mini version of the respect that they obviously treat everything with. But I remember going into that episode 5, you know, battle between Johnny and Daniel in, what was that, season 4, up on the sparring deck. There was such like a reverence about that, knowing that these were two people coming together that, you know, we're gonna duke it out, that was like, this is what everybody's been waiting for. For me, it was that moment internally with Sam and Tory. There was a lot of intention with that, and for me, the staying standing is very much about, you know, staying in a defensive concept, and but also almost in a way it's offensive, and it kind of like is the first time we see this like vulnerable side of Tory coming out, where I feel like, you know, I got to have that in season 3 with Sam, where we got to really see, like, I got to really dig into the crying and the stuff like that. And obviously Tory has those incredible moments, but Sam doesn't get to see them. And it was kind of the first moment where I literally was talking to Peyton about this the other day, where it was almost like super emotional when they said action for the first time, and I walked in there and I looked down and I saw her with the bloody knuckles and the ice on her hand, and her, like, she just looked up at me, and I had this moment of like, oh my God, something doesn't feel right. I shouldn't be here. Like, I felt like I was intruding on this very personal part of her life, and it made me question like all this anger that I had toward her and all these like things that, like, you know, as a character but as an actor, it was a really fun experience to get to have that like lack of leveling in the physicality, but this leveling of what felt like for Sam being like, okay, I can sort of start to let my guard down because I see her so with her guard down.
You're too easy to talk to. I'm so happy that we got to do this in person, and you christened the Dice Tower.
I do. I feel so special.
This is the only time I haven't rolled a die. It is official. It is a very special thing now. Thank you so much. Congratulations on all of Cobra Kai right now, in particular, season 5. Everyone out there, thank you for watching this edition of Collider Ladies Night. I hope you enjoy Cobra Kai. Hit the comments section, share some thoughts on this conversation and some of your favorite moments from season 5 as well.